Festival in 2018, where it was nominated for Best Solo Show. It is now running at the Soho Playhouse through May 6th, and Bill is in studio. Thanks for coming to the studio.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me.
The big half-block walk away.
No, man, this is so cool. Thank you so much for having me.
I saw the show yesterday, and it's so funny. You have at the top of the show a couple of disclaimers about people, white people in the audience and black people in the audience. Tell our listeners what the disclaimers are and why you felt they were necessary.
Yeah, so I start the show with the exact same disclaimer. I say we're gonna cover some racial topics and we're gonna go down some rough roads. And I just want to say, white people, it's okay to laugh. It's okay to laugh from the bottom of your gut. Black people, do me a favor. When they're laughing, don't stare at them, okay? Let's try and create a safe space. And I do that just because, I want to allow people to feel free to enjoy the show, especially creating a safe environment to discuss very difficult issues is what I want to provide, especially in, today's society where, people aren't being taken care of when we talk about things, and people don't feel safe to express themselves. And I wanted to make sure that was something that people felt. And I don't necessarily just mean for the white audience, I also mean for the black audience as well. I didn't want them to feel defensive or that they had to feel, pressured to act a certain way, because I've been in that situation where, you hear or see imagery that is tough or difficult to look at, and you are looking around to see how everybody else is reacting to it or seeing how they're looking at you react to it. So I wanted everybody to just feel safe and secure, so that way only thing they have to worry about is enjoying the show.
The title's provocative because it suggests there's one day, and I don't want to give anything away, but something big happens to you, which is sort of at the crescendo. But it's also about just how all through your life you have these reminders that you have two different parts of your family, and somehow people want to make you choose. It's a really interesting, there's actually this one really interesting part when you're describing little you having to deal with a certain word in a in a certain book we all read, and little tough black you is like, yo, you can't say that word, and then little white you has like headgear. And it's just like, let's go out and play.
Yeah.
Did you really have that sense of that dual personality?
Yes, I think that the experience of somebody who is biracial is unique in the fact that you have a insight into both cultures, and you have an empathy and a relationship with both cultures, right? And so when my friend who was white ended up having to read a word in a book out loud in class, right? That starts with an N. Everybody kind of looked at me and was like, oh my God, what's this person going to do? And, there was a thought in me that was like, oh man, I have to fight this guy because I am black or perceived black, and I need to stand up for this word. But there is this, this other person in me who knows that white people are my cousins, white people are my family, and there's an empathy that I have toward that experience as well that maybe other people who are all black may not have. And so there was a moment where I was like, oh well, this, he's just reading it, and he was forced to read it, and it isn't this thing. So like being able to see the world through both of those lenses, I think really the word is that I have empathy to both sides, so that perspective makes it a little bit more unique.
My guest is Bill Poser. The name of his show is The Day I Became Black. It's running through at Soho Playhouse through May 6th. When I first saw this and I said, oh, we're going to do this segment, I remembered something I saw on 60 Minutes with Barack Obama.
Yes.
Have you ever seen this clip? It was from 2007, so he was candidate Obama. And Steve Croft from 60 Minutes, I asked him, this is the question.
Yeah.
Yet at some point, you decided that you were black. And Obama goes, well, I'm not sure I decided it. I think if you look African American in the society, you're treated as an African American. That's an incredibly weird question.
Right.
Weird is a nice word. And it's really interesting when you watch this clip. You see Obama's eyes just, like he blinks a lot, and you see he self-regulates.
Yes.
He doesn't really say what he wants to say. What do you think about his answer?
I think that answer is the exact way that I felt once I kind of got an understanding of what it meant to be forced to identify. So this whole time, right? Obama has such a deep connection to half of himself, which is his white half, because he was raised by his white mom. And when he announced his candidacy or put himself out there as biracial, it was immediately criticized. White people wouldn't let him be biracial. They said that he was black. Black people were offended that he said he was biracial, and they're saying that he was black. And so after a while, you just feel this need to be like, okay, I'm gonna stop fighting it. I'm going to give in, and the world sees me as black. They're decided that I'm black, so guess what? I'm black. And so I know and relate exactly to that feeling, because it's really difficult to maintain a biracial identity that makes sense to you.
You describe it as being kind of tiring.
It can be
Very tiring at sometimes during your life.
Yes, because you have to keep, correcting people or expressing to people how serious that identity is to you and how much it means to you. And, I've been around and I've heard it from both sides, also there are, from my experience, to be around black people who speak poorly of white people and be like, hey guys, that's my mom and my cousins and my family, people I love very much. But I've also, there are biracial people who are white passing, who are around white people and hear them say very discriminatory things toward black people and are like, hey man, I'm black. Like, what's wrong with you? And so you always feel like it's something that you're thinking about. It's something that you're trying to express to the world, but you don't quite know how to. And at every turn, you feel like you're getting pushback from it.
It's interesting in the show, you talk about how you're just trying to navigate as a kid, you're trying to live in both worlds, and it's so innocent and sweet. And then you have this moment when your dad has to give you the talk.
Yes.
You're a young black man, talk. And then your nice, sort of sweet firefighter father suddenly turns into like a Black Panther. And your description and the way you portray it is both, it's funny and it's a little sad, but also, I have to say, very, very funny.
Right.
Did your dad really have that kind of transformation, or was that a little poetic license?
There's a little poetic license, but there was also a level of when your parents sit you down and have a serious talk, you're like, who is this person? You know what I mean? Who does this person become? And it also becomes a very interesting thing, because you, again, like I was saying, you grow up around your white family and you have a relationship to them. You see your dad, shaking your uncle's hands and being with your mom, and your cousins call him Uncle Pose, which is my dad's name. And then for him to sit down and be like, listen, that white family ain't the family that's gonna have your back if stuff goes down. They're not the family who's going to accept you if we split into a race war. You need to realize that you don't have the same privileges as that side of your family. So to see a dad go from Uncle Pose to watch them conspiracy theory, you're just like, oh my God, what's happening? So it took on a different level of severity to me, and he came off a little bit more like a Black Panther than he did my dad at the time, and I was just like, whoa, who is this guy?
My guess is Bill Posley. The name of his show is The Day I Became Black. The show's really funny, and you really push a lot of tough themes through comedy, and you really push it right up to the edge. You have a video game. That's a way to teach Black history, but it's an enslaved person and change. You can make him break out. He's kind of like a Super Mario brother. The little figure looks like, and you call out Presidents Jefferson and Washington for having enslaved people. You take up toxic masculinity through porn, black masculinity through porn. Is there any one thing you can tell really makes the audience uncomfortable that you kind of can get a sense from, because it's an intimate room?
Right. Yeah, I think that there, definitely the stuff that you were talking about, and to step it out without getting too specific, it is what you start to realize, or what I started to realize, is if I was going to take on a black identity in this country, that one of the things that I wanted to learn a little bit more about was what it meant to be black in America. Once I started to realize that that's how I was being perceived, and then when you go to look at it, you realize, oh, I've not really been educated on that in this country. It's as if we started slavery, wake up at Martin Luther King, and there's like nothing in between. And so comedically, I hypothesize that the reason why we don't do that is because it's too difficult, and I suggest different kind of teaching techniques to do that, one of which being Slavery the Video Game. And as a joke, in order to show that we can take graphic material. I mean, we do it all the time. We go to World War II in Call of Duty, or the Spanish Inquisition in Assassin's Creed, and those are both wars where Jews were murdered and persecuted, and we still play those games. And so through comedy, I try my best to express that there is something systemically wrong in this country about the way Black history is taught. And so it's time for us to figure out a way to make those complex and difficult subjects more relatable to kids. And that was something that I think makes people uncomfortable, that makes them laugh. I think there's an expression, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's something similar. I try to tickle the ribs before you inject the medicine, and just allow people to laugh, but also go, oh, he's got a point. There is something wrong with that, and I do think we need to learn a little bit more, or I never thought of it like that, Every person, I think, who gets a chance to see the show, because at the end of the day, the show is about somebody's search for identity. And I think that everybody who gets a chance to see the show identifies with some aspect of it. I had a 70-year-old couple come up to me and say, I'm German, he's Jewish, and our parents disowned us too. And they related with my parents in the story. And they saw the two of them have to decide their identity as they were doing it. I've had people from the LGBT community come up and say, I know what it's like to have an identity forced upon me when it was something I didn't really understand at the time, and it didn't live inside of me. And so, that was somebody who there was no racial connection at all. It was just an identity connection. So I think that those are some of the, albeit uncomfortable and a little different, I still think that everybody walks out taking something from that show.
Have you had any outbursts or weird vocalizations during the show that you didn't expect?
Oh, let me tell you, one of my favorite things is Black people, thank you for being here when it comes to these shows. Because one of the things that I really love about this show is here we are in Soho, and we get to see a mix of people from all over New York lined up in this space.
I saw it.
You saw it, she was there. I mean, not to say that there isn't, there is great programming at the Soho Playhouse. It's incredible. I mean, there's so many amazing shows there, and they are doing so many great, innovative things at that theater. And one of which I think that is attractive about the show is, people from Harlem are coming out of Soho. I've had people come all the way out from Jersey and Queens, Black people from all over the place, and then they are mixing with what you consider to be, your average white theater goers. And to have, for instance, a part that you were talking about is when I go, the hardest person you've ever known, to have Black people go, Grammy, and they guess who it's going to be beforehand because it is their experience. And I taught my cousins, my white cousins, the greatest black card game of all time. Black people yell, spades! It's like, to watch two audiences who typically experience things and watch things differently. Black people are very vocal when they watch things, and white people are much more reserved when they watch things. So to have these two people interacting with each other at the exact same time is just so amazing, and it gives everybody the ability to laugh, because laughter is a universal expression, and it makes us all the same, even if for a moment we're all being
to that really hurt your feelings?
Yeah, Zebra Kid. That is the number one. That one hurt the most, because I just like didn't understand why I was being called that, and you know, I make a point in the show to say I wasn't just called it by white people. I was called it by black people too, and let me tell you, when black people are prejudiced, it hurts way more, because you're like, really? Like, if anybody should understand what it's like to be looked down upon or to be condescended, it's you, and you feel the need to do it to me, it hurts way more. And so, yeah, man, Zebra Kid is the one that hurt the most, because I think it's also the most
dehumanizing too.
Dehumanizing, and it just hurt, yeah.
Although I have to say, some of the kids that they've taken swirl back.
Swirls back, yeah.
My kid said to me, I'm not lying to you, Fred, I was in basketball, he goes, sometimes, but you know, like swirls like me. I looked at him, I was like, what, little man? What did you just say? And I remember that, I thought, oh, he's okay. Oh, it's kind of interesting when you take possession of something back. It's an interesting idea. And a big part of the show, and I don't want to give anything away because I want people to go see it and be surprised, is you really get into the concept of race as a social construct.
Right.
And you proved your point in the show, that this is something that has been designations made by individuals to create systems,
right,
and the like. I'm curious if that's where you meant to go with it, or is that something that you sort of discovered along the way?
Yeah, I think it's something that I discovered along the way, which is, you know, just the idea that, like, I am somebody who, no matter who altruistically wants to believe in everything's going to be, we're all love, everything's going to be great, everything's going to be beautiful. I am, you know, Pollyanna in that, and want to give everybody a benefit of the doubt and a chance and all that stuff, but that doesn't always set up with the world around me and what is already kind of in place, be it the way I'm perceived, the way other people's viewpoints of an African American in our society is kind of perceived. The idea that, like, I think I'm going to run around in every situation and people are always going to give me the benefit of the doubt is naive. And so sometimes that ends up creating a little backlash, as it does at the end of the show, and, you know, can get me in trouble sometimes. And the other thing I also want to say is that the show's called The Day Became Black, and it's just the understanding that there's a day that you realize you are perceived a certain way in our society. And that's across the board, right? I try and elaborate a little bit more at the end, but, like, there's a day that a woman realizes what it means to be a woman in this country the same way I realize what it means to be black. There's a day that somebody who's gay realizes what it means to be gay in this country the same way I did what it means to be black. And even a white person in this country, there's a day that they realize that they're white. And whether that is realizing there is a level of privilege that comes with that, or realizing that they don't want what's associated with that, and I'm not saying that it is the exact same as what those other three women, people of color, and people in the LGBT community experience, but they still experience something. And it is a universal understanding that we are all responsible for putting each other in those boxes and labeling each other. All blank do this, because you're this, I think blank. Like, those are all things that we are all battling against, and at the same time responsible for perpetuating.
Before I let you go,
yes.
And I mean, you deal with some very difficult themes. You show some videos, video that we don't see on the news because we don't see the extended videos of certain examples of police brutality, way too many examples of police brutality. But you do have this idea of this mirror, this idea of having people look at people who are not like them for an extended period of time. Tell folks about that before you go.
Yes. So part of the show, we at first had it in the back of a truck. It was like a poor man's Maria Abramovich. And so we were taking the truck around to different areas in New York, and we would open it up and invite people to go in the back of the truck. And when they walked in, there was just this mirror, and everybody thought it was a mirror. And when they walked in front of the mirror, somebody else would walk out, and they were a different person. And they would stare into a mirror of somebody who didn't look like them, and the only thing that they were allowed to say is, "I am you and you are me." And for 1 minute, they shared the same space. And that's something that we will be bringing back this next month, later this next month, before the show, because we don't ever like just look at each other and drop all of the labels that come with it, and we just stare and say, "I am you and you are me," because at the end of the day, most of our experiences are human. They may be specifically different, but we all have the same human emotions, human experience, fear, pain, loss, love, anger, all of those things. And once we drop all the preconceived stuff and we're just there with another human being, we can embrace our differences and cherish our similarities much, much more. And so that's what that experience was and has been. And I mean, let me tell you, from laughter to crying to miming hearts that say I love you. I mean, it has been such a magical thing, and people have just really, really responded to it in a way I can't even imagine, and it is great. It has been really, really great.
The Posley Show, The Day I Became Black, is running now at the Soho Playhouse through May 6th. Bill, thanks for coming to all of it.
Thank you very much. And also, just so you know, we've extended, we are all the way until May 27th now. Excellent.
May 27th.
So yeah, please come out. I appreciate it, everybody. And thank you so much for coming, and you're amazing, and this show's amazing. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, man. After the break, it's our regular Monday segment with classical music, picks from WQXR's Clemson Burton Hill, and something new we're trying is called Good Vibes. We'll be right back.
WNYC supporters include Valley Health System, located in Bergen County, New Jersey. Stories from Valley's patients and the distinctive cancer care they received are at mystory.valleyhealth.com. The New York Public Library, presenting Love and Resistance, Stonewall 50, an exhibition about the impact of the 1969 Stonewall riots, now through July 14th. More at nypl.org/Stonewall50. What the Constitution Means to Me, on Broadway for 12 weeks. This original play deconstructs the country's founding document and imagines how it will shape the next generation of American women. Tickets at constitutionbroadway.com.
WNYC has declared April Listener Appreciation Month. As an independent public media station, WNYC is dedicated to serving you and only you. Listeners are at the core of WNYC. You are why we're able to bring you the news and programs you rely on. To say thanks, we've created a special set of WNYC stickers we'll send to you for free. Go to WNYC.org/sticker to get yours today, and thanks again.
You're listening to all of it on WNYC. Welcome back. We want to try something new on the show today. We want to put some good vibes out into the world, so let's give it a try. Over the weekend, there were two important award ceremonies. The GLAAD Media Awards that recognize and honor media for their fair and inclusive representations of LGBTQ communities and the issues that affect their lives. Winners included a variety, for example, Variety for Best Overall Magazine Coverage and Queer Eye for Best Reality Show. Then there were the NAACP Image Awards. They were also handed out. Black Panther dominated in the film categories, and recent All-of-It guest Tayari Jones won Best Literary Work Fiction for An American Marriage. One thing the two ceremonies had in common: each organization honored the Carters, Beyonce, and Jay-Z with special lifetime achievement type awards. Beyonce and Jay-Z received GLAAD's Vanguard Award for being longtime allies and for using their global platforms to share messages that inspire change in the world, for the better, of course. On Jay-Z's last album, 444, his mom came out as a lesbian, and Beyonce has been very vocal. She was a very vocal critic of North Carolina's BAFTA laws. During their acceptance speeches, Beyonce got a bit emotional, sharing a personal story.
I want to dedicate this award to my Uncle Johnny, the most fabulous gay man I've ever known, who helped raise me and my sister. He lived his truth. He was brave and unapologetic during a time when this country wasn't as accepting. LGBTQI rights are human rights. I just want to say to you, Jay, that I'm so proud of you for making incredible strides towards changing stigmas in the hip-hop community. It's a privilege to watch you take those steps and to stand right next to you. I love you, and we're super grateful and honored. Thank y'all.
At the NAACP Awards, the civil rights organization recognized Jay-Z with the President's Award for Special Achievement and Distinguished Public Service. He gave a really lovely speech and dedicated it to the women in his life. And when you think, 15, 20 years ago, he was rapping about having 99 problems and a B word ain't one, it lets you know people are capable of change and growth. So to today, Jay-Z's speech from the NAACP Awards provides today's good vibes.
Abraham Lincoln had a quote that said, it's not the amount of years in your life, it's the amount of life in your years that count in the end. And that quote, it embodies my beautiful grandmother, who I would like to dedicate this award to. Her name is Hattie White. She's 93 years old. She's so full of life. And Hattie White, amongst other accomplishments, being super great and very tough, she raised 7 kids and one little walk up in Brooklyn, 615 Lexington, where I started my life. On top of that, her kids had kids, and we all was raised in the same house, one household. So I was speaking to her the other day. I had a different speech prepared, and I just threw that away after I spoke to her. And she said, I asked her, I said, how much money did you make? And she made $20 a week. And she said, no, but it was fine. You could do a lot with $20 in those days. And with that sort of attitude, that's where I grew up. That's how I grew up, with those, her and my mother, Glory Carter. That in my household, what can I do? I grew up believing I could do anything, that I can accomplish anything because of those strong women in my house. And thank you. So I'd like to dedicate this award to those beautiful women. I'd like to dedicate this award to beautiful women in my life. It's Beyonce, just because of the white suit. I really, yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you to NAACP for allowing me to forward this so she can put this on her mantle next to her favorite grandson. And then when she's like sneaking pork and like her legs swell up, like she can remember how much of a G she is. Thank you.
Speaking of good vibes, it's Monday, and on all of it, Monday means we take a breath and slow it down and listen to some classical music tracks with Clemmy Burton Hill. Clemency Burton Hill is the creative director at our sister station, WQXR, and every week she stops by the studio to play us some selections and share the backstories of some of the best compositions in classical music. And listeners, if you want to follow along, you can pick up her book. It's called Year of Wonder, Classical Music to Enjoy Day by Day. April 1st,